Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel of the reading of the unofficial ChatGPT version of the Book of Mormon. I have had a lot of fun putting together AI art, AI images that go right along with the story. And it's been kind of challenging sometimes. You guys, I hope you understand that AI art is not something that you can duplicate. Once AI takes hold of your prompt, it can do pretty much within reason. It can do some pretty crazy things. But I've selected the right images that roll right along with the story. But you will see people change as the story goes along. Don't be confused by that because the names go right along with the images. I've discovered new ways to create art that goes right along with it. That's pretty much all I have to say. Today is going to be 1st Nephi, chapters 1 and 2. And I just have to reiterate that anybody that's watching this, please go to the original Book of Mormon and read that as well. If you want to wait until I'm finished with this entire book of the ChatGPT translation, that's fine. It's a lot of fun reading. It's funny. And I just hope you guys enjoy this installment of the Gen Z Book of Mormon. It's speaking to that generation and everybody else. Everybody's included. Everybody's welcome here. And without further ado, I will say peace out and enjoy. The first book of Nephi, his reign and ministry. Okay, so basically there was this guy, Lehi, and his wife, Sariah, and they had 4 sons, Laman, Lemuel, Sam, and Nephi, who was the youngest. The Lord told Lehi to get out of Jerusalem because he was preaching against the people's bad behavior, and they were trying to kill him. So Lehi and his family traveled for 3 days into the wilderness. Later on, Nephi went back to Jerusalem to get some records from the Jews. They went through a lot of suffering, but they eventually took some girls from a guy named Ishmael as wives, and then they all left Jerusalem and went into the wilderness. They faced a lot of hardships while they were out there, but eventually they made it to this big body of water. Nephi's older brothers didn't like him, and they rebelled against him. But he ended up building a ship, and they all sailed across the water to a new land. Nephi wrote all this down in a record. Chapter 1. Yo, it's Nephi. I was born to dope parents who taught me all their knowledge. I've been through some rough times, but the Lord has blessed me with mad knowledge about his mysteries, so I'm making a record of my life. This record is in my father's language, which is a mix of Jewish and Egyptian knowledge. I swear this record is legit and true, and I wrote it myself based on what I know. This all went down in the first year of Zedekiah's reign over Judah. My pops, Lehi, lived in Jerusalem at the time, and lots of prophets were saying the city would be destroyed if the people didn't repent. So my dad prayed hardcore for his peeps, and while he was praying, a freaking pillar of fire appeared on a rock in front of him. He saw and heard some crazy stuff that made him shake with fear. He went back home and passed out on his bed, overwhelmed by the Spirit and what he'd just experienced. He was so filled with the Spirit that he had a vision where he saw heaven open up and God sitting on his throne, surrounded by a ton of angels singing and praising him. Then he saw a figure come down from heaven whose light was brighter than the sun at noon. 12 other figures followed, and their brightness was more than the stars in the sky. They came down to earth, and the first one handed my dad a book and told him to read it. As he read, he was filled with the Spirit. He read about all the messed up stuff that was going to happen to Jerusalem, like destruction and lots of people dying or being taken captive by Babylon. After reading all that, he praised the Lord and said some dope stuff like, "Your works are amazing, God. Your throne is high in the heavens, and your power, goodness, and mercy are over everyone on the earth. You're merciful, so you won't let those who come to you perish." My dad's soul was lit, and he was hyped up about everything he'd seen and heard from the Lord. I won't go into all the stuff my dad wrote about, like his visions and prophecies to his kids, but I will write about my own life and make an abridged version of my dad's record on some plates I made myself. So, after the Lord showed my dad all this crazy stuff about the destruction of Jerusalem, he went and told everyone about it and prophesied about what he'd seen and heard. But the Jews just clowned on him and mocked him, even though he was calling them out on their wickedness and saying that the book he read showed that the Messiah was coming and the world would be redeemed. The Jews got so angry and they wanted to kill my dad, just like how they did to old school prophets. But I'm here to tell you that the Lord's mercy is with those who have faith, and He'll give them the power to be saved. Chapter 2. My pops had a dream where the Lord spake to him and said, "Bless up, Lehi. You've been faithful and spread my word, but watch out, 'cause there's haters trying to take you out." So then the Lord told my dad in another dream to pack up and head into the wilderness with the fam. And my dad obeyed the Lord's command, doing everything he was told. He left everything behind, even his crib and his cash, and only took his family, some supplies and tents with him. We traveled near the Red Sea, and my family consisted of my mom, Sariah, and my older bros, Laman, Lemuel, and Sam. After 3 days of wandering, we set up camp in a valley by a river. My pops built an altar out of rocks and gave thanks to the Lord by making an offering. He named the river Laman because it flowed into the Red Sea, and the valley was right by the sea. My dad saw the river flowing into the sea and said to Laman, "I wish you could be like this river and keep running towards righteousness." He said to Lemuel, "I wish you could be like this valley, strong and unshakable in keeping the Lord's commandments." He said all this because Laman and Lemuel were acting like stubborn jerks and complaining about how our dad was leading us to our deaths in the wilderness. Laman and Lemuel were the oldest, and they were hating on our pops because they didn't understand God's plan. They didn't believe that Jerusalem could be destroyed like the prophets had said, and they were just like the people who wanted to kill our dad. But then our dad got all powerful and filled with the Spirit and shut them up real quick. They did whatever he said. So yeah, we all lived in tents. Now, even though I was young, I was big, and I wanted to know God's secrets. So I prayed to the Lord, and He softened my heart to believe my dad's words. Unlike my bros, I didn't rebel against him. I told Sam about the things the Lord showed me, and he believed me. But Laman and Lemuel were too stubborn to listen to me, and it made me sad. So I prayed for them. And then the Lord spoke to me and said, "Good job, Nephi. You've been faithful and humble, so I'm going to bless you." He promised that if we kept his commandments, we'd be successful and go to a really great land. But if my bros rebelled against me, they'd be cut off from the Lord. And if I kept God's commandments, I'd be a leader over my bros. But if they rebelled against God, they'd have no power over my descendants unless they rebelled too. And if they did rebel, they'd be punished to help my descendants remember God's ways.